All right, today we are going to be swapping out wheels and adding wheel spacers. We're going to be taking these wheels off and putting these wheels on and adding 3-inch wheel spacers to this truck. So don't have a impact, so it's all going to be with the jack stands and our handy dandy breaker bar. So we'll begin by going one wheel at a time with a jack stand, and we want to make sure that we have the proper torque on the wheel spacers. So I'll unpack those and show you what it comes in the box and how to properly install these so that they don't fall off when you're driving down the road. There are stories that these wheel spacers will cause problems with the steering and suspension. It's not true. If you do it properly, you can install these and get these tires to stick out a little bit further than what they are, and it actually helps stabilize and control. You can see that the tires right now are inside of the fender wells. We'll see how far it makes them stick out with the 3-inch wheel spacers. The tires and wheels on this truck are 17-inch rims. These are 285 65 18s. Did I say 17-inch rims? I meant 18. 285 65 18 wheels going on this truck. These are 285 75 16s. So let's do this, shall you? I do want to mention that these lug nuts here take a special key socket. So these lug nuts are available through the Walmarts. I'm pretty sure that's where he got them. They run probably around $26 or so to $30 with tax. And I know that with Walmart.com, you got to have a $35 order for free shipping. So the key to get around that is buy a couple things, get the thing that you want, get the total over $35, and then return what you don't want and get a refund for it, and you get free shipping out of the deal. So, but these are about $30 for 24 lug nuts, and the key it comes with 2 keys for the lug nuts. It takes a special key here. These here are going to be 19mm lug nuts, but we're not swapping out lug nuts. They're going to go back on. So let's do this, shall you? Now, the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have proper fitting on the socket itself. This is a 22mm key. If you don't, then it will round off these edges here. And what I'm going to do is break free all of the lug nuts, every single one of them on both trucks first before jacking the truck up, because obviously if you lift the wheels off the ground, then you're not going to be able to break the lug nuts free. The tire's just going to sit there. Wheels just sit there and spin. So break all of them loose on both trucks. Make sure that you have the proper socket setting so that you don't strip anything out. Well, one of the things you want to be careful with is over tightening lug nuts. These here were okay. The wheel will shift a little bit as you loosen some of them, so they'll still be a little bit tight, but once you take that pressure off the wheel, the lug nuts should free up a little bit. This is a delicate process because if you try to force the lug nuts loose too much, you could cause damage to the lug nuts themselves, so you got to be careful. And as you can hear, I'm out of breath because it is a tedious process, but you want to make sure that when you put these things back on that you don't over torque them. So you want to use a torque wrench like so. These will torque at 125 pounds. 110 to 125 will go 125, but if you run into a lug nut that is over torqued and you can't get it to move, you want to be careful with this. Make sure that you have proper stability because this is on there really good. So set that bar up and kind of apply pressure with your foot like this. Keep it as balanced as possible, and it's not moving at all. So this is one technique, but as you can see, as I'm pushing down, it's kind of pulling it this way, and that will cause this socket to apply pressure more to the end of the key, and it could cause damage as I push down on it like this because of the shape of the breaker bar here. It's going to be applying pressure more towards the end of the key instead of inside of the lug nut. That's where we want the maximum pressure put. So I'm going to try to push in on it right here, try to get it as close to the wheel as possible so that the force, all of the force can be applied to the lug nut itself. So I'm gonna have to do this with 2 hands now. Okay. After putting the pressure on, stepping on it gently, causing it to break free, I got it. But you want to be careful doing that because you could strip it out, break the breaker bar. It's just a jack handle from an old jack, but it will cause damage if you're not careful, and then you'll be done. You'll have to go get something else, another new wrench or whatever, new key. You don't want to do that, so you got to be careful with that. So note that you don't want to over torque the lug nuts because it will seize with rain and snow and anything that can get in there. Salt will cause what's called iron oxide, or what we call rust, and it will seize these lug nuts tighter than tight. So it'll cause damage if you don't apply anti-seize on the threads. I don't have any, but it's a good practice to use anti-seize on these threads so that the lug nuts do not seize on the lugs themselves. As you can see over here, guess what happened? Yep, that lug will you'll either break the lug off or strip it out. You don't want either one of those happening, but this is a parts truck I drive for this truck. So just be careful so you don't cause any damage twisting off the lugs or causing damage to the key, breaker bar, or anything else, because then you'll end up without one and have to fix it. All right, all the lug nuts are loose enough. This is one last look of the truck before the wheel spacers are put on, and this is a 19 millimeter for these lug nuts, but this is the last look, so we'll get the process started. One more side view, see how far in the wheels are sitting inside the fender well, especially with the fender flares. It makes them look like they're set in even more. So we'll see what it looks like with the 3-inch wheel spacers. What I'm gonna do is put the jack underneath the pumpkin here and get both wheels off the ground. And then put the jack stand underneath of one side, because I have 2 jack stands and 1 jack. And I can only work with, in order to get those wheel spacers properly torqued, we have to work logically here with 2 jack stands, because I can't get both trucks off the ground at the same time without 4 jack stands. I only have 2. So one wheel is going to have to remain on the ground while I put that other one on it. The trick is going to be getting it at the right height, because both wheels, both tires are different sizes. So I'm going to go up as high as I need to, get the jack stand underneath of it, and then let the jack down so that this tire touches the ground, leaving enough space to torque the wheel spacer here. So I'm going to pull this off and then get a video of the wheel spacer, unboxing it, seeing what it looks like, and then putting it on. All right, go into my little bag of electrical tools here, all nice and neat. Gotta find the utility knife, and just had it out. We're gonna unpack this wheel spacer. Over here still. Negative. All right. Let's see here. That's always irritating when you can't find what you're looking for. There it is. How did it get to the bottom already? I just used the thing. Okay, we're gonna unpack this wheel spacer. Made in China. Well, that's good. Okay, what we have here is a set of 2 3-inch wheel spacers. I hope that they pack them with the nuts. I'm going to put this down for just a second. Okay, what do we get ourselves into here? These are packed together, so in order to get them free from each other, I'm gonna have to figure out. Oh, one thing I want to clarify. This little tube here is your thread lock. So these wheel spacers go on the hubs. So when you pull the wheel off, you put this on. When you put this on, just the wheel spacer, apply liberally on threads before you put the lug nuts back on. This will prevent those lug nuts from breaking loose from this. And then torque to 125 pounds before you put the wheel on. Okay, so pull those apart and you see that these have the lug nuts on them. What I'm going to do is take this wheel off, set this on the cardboard. You don't want to scratch it on the concrete. Kick this wheel loose a little bit. Pull that off. Come on, you can do this. Okay, you are going on the other truck. So we're going to set you over here. Now, one thing that I realized is that I bought this tire for $20. Okay, brand new. It was the same size as the rest of them, so I didn't want mismatched tires on there. Realized it was directional, and so my buddies at the Walmart tire shop indicated, make sure that this goes in the right direction. Thank you, friends at the Walmart tire shop. Always delivering. So that's going to have to go on the passenger side. Everything will be okay after that. All right, back to this. So this wheel spacer will go on like so, just like it would a tire, okay? Now, we have to put that thread lock on it first, okay? That will prevent those lug nuts from breaking free. So as you can see, that causes the hub to have an appearance of 3 inches out further. And it should look pretty good. Good quality. Another thing about these wheel spacers real quick before I put these on is that these are hub-centric wheel spacers. I forgot to mention that. These are hub-centric wheel spacers. You can see that little lip on the inside of the hub right here, okay? There are hub-centric. They are a lot safer and highly recommended over the lug-centric, which doesn't have this little piece right here. The lug-centric is only the lug nuts, the lugs and the lug nuts. That would cause a little bit of problems from my perspective. You want that hub to have the center weight. When those wheels are spinning at a high rate, it causes all that force without having it on the centric weight here. It causes all that force to be here. We don't want that. We want that centric force to be on this. So these are hub-centric wheel spacers, not lug-centric wheel spacers. They cost a little bit more, but in the long run, you can afford $50 if you're gonna buy these for 180 bucks for the 4. I'd rather spend $180 for hub-centric than $150 for lug-centric. All right, I want to do a brake inspection real quick. Take a look at these pads. Yeah, probably gonna have to replace them before too long. You can see the pad right here. I'll put my finger there and then remove my finger. You can kind of see the pad. This is the caliper. This is the pad itself on the inside. Let me see if I can get a pointer here. That little thing right there where the tip of the thread lock is, that's the pad right here. Probably gonna have to put new ones on, at least they're 4-wheel disc brakes. Okay, back to this. I'm gonna cut the end of this off, apply liberally here, 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 and got to save enough to make sure that we get all 12 lugs. It comes with the wheel spacer, but we want to make sure that we get that on there enough. You can be liberal with it. It's okay. Highly recommended. Got that little end cut off, so we can start applying this. There we go. On the threads here. That's good. 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 Okay. There we go. Last one. Okay. Now, should have enough for the next one. Put that back in the styrofoam. Hopefully they didn't torque these down. That's good. Never know. Just unscrew all of these, because these are what's going to be holding it on. So you take these off of there and then put the wheel spacer on back on the hub, and then slide this lug nut inside, and then use your, looks like a 19mm socket to torque those down. I'll show you the setup so that you can see how I'm going to make sure that they're torqued. Okay, so they were 19mm, and if you're working on a Silverado or any Chevy half-ton, you're going to want 6 by 5.5, and then that 14 by 1.5 is your lug nuts. 6 by 5.5. That's going to give you the proper distance from the center of the hub to the lug nut itself. 6 by 5.5. 6 lug nuts, 5.5 from spacing, for spacing. So set that lug nut in there. Get it started. Make sure you don't cross thread it, for crying out loud. We'll start on this one over here. Lug nut inside, socket. Not a whole lot of room to cross thread on these. This is just a regular wall socket. They have thin wall sockets. This is a 19mm impact socket. Working a star pattern for proper balance of tightening. We went here, here. Now we're gonna go here. Whoops, here. So we started here, went here. Now we're going here. Star pattern for even fitting tightness, I guess is what you want to call it. Okay, wheel spacer is on. Just have to torque it down, but we have a predicament, right? Because we want to put this wheel on this truck. We have 2 jack stands and a jack. So what I'm going to do is set the jack stand underneath of this, just below. I gotta use cardboard here. Hard on the knees. Put the jack stand just below. Come on, lock. And then raise it up a little bit. Lock this junk. So we want just this off the ground so that we can release the jack and not have this on the ground, right? We don't want that to hit the ground, but we need enough clearance to get that wheel over there on this hub after we torque this down. We have to have that tire touching the ground with enough room, somewhat. We don't really have to have it right now, but with enough room, we want that tire touching the ground so that we can torque this down. Raise it back up, put that wheel on this one. We got to take the jack out, remember, because we have to get that wheel off. Take the jack out, set the truck on the jack stand with that tire touching so that we can torque this down. Jack that truck up, put another jack stand underneath on that side so that we can get that wheel off and put it on here after torquing this. All right, let's do it. All right, now we have the jack cleared, that tire on the ground. We can torque this. We'll probably have to raise it back up to get that wheel on there, but that's okay, because that one will be stabilized by another jack stand. So we'll get this torqued to 125 on the torque wrench. Go pull that wheel off, put that wheel on here. With unfortunately having to jack it back up, I don't think there's going to be enough room here. There's clearly not enough room to put a 7 or 18-inch wheel on there. Keep trying to call them 17s, they're 18s. All right, so here we go. All right, now I went back, tightened those nuts inside of here to close to 120, 125. I have the torque wrench set at 125. With these, you dial it, you just keep rotating that handle until you see the 120, and then go to the 5 in between 6 and 4 there. So just keep cranking that handle until it gets up there. So I'm going to go until it clicks once, and then move on to the next. All right. Whew. Okay, they're all clicked once the first time around. So what I'm going to do is go back around and make sure that they all click again. If I can do this one-handed. You hear that? Don't go any further than the click. Make sure that it's seated on the lug nut properly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna go on the other side of that. Yeah. Come on. Know where you start so you don't have to do it more than one more time around. This one's a little bugger because the lugs are in the way and I don't have an extension with me. Two more. We got this. One more right here. Here's our last one. Yeah. Okay. Now that the wheel spacer has been properly torqued down, we are ready to take, there's the jack stand. One more jack stand over there. We are ready to take this jack, put it underneath the truck over here. Pumpkin, differential, whatever you want to call it. All of the lug nuts on this truck have been loosened. So just got to pull that wheel off and put it on this wheel spacer. Can't wait to see what it looks like. All right. Well, funny enough, I did leave enough room underneath that to get that tire underneath without having to remove the jack. Last thing we're going to do is the lug nuts back on. And you want to start with making sure that they're not cross-threaded, right? So I always start them by my hands first. Kick that one in a little bit. And get these where they're tight. The problem is, obviously, that the jack stand is going to have to go underneath that other truck because I need the jack to get these torqued, right? I gotta remove that jack stand so that we can get this thing on the ground to get it torqued. That's okay. So this is the process. I'll show you what it looks like after this one. Funny thread here. All right, this is the process. I'm going to get the other 3 done and then end it with a video of what it looks like afterwards. So, simple enough. Just make sure that you do it logically so that everything is torqued when you're done. Definitely make sure that that hub-centric wheel spacer is torqued to the hub before doing anything else. Now, if we had an impact, this would be done in no time. But we don't. So, star pattern. Whenever you do this, work in a star pattern. Even tightness around the wheel. Remember, you're working in a circle. Oh, that one's tough. Gonna fight me the whole way. There we go. Okay. They're all hand tight, so what I'm going to do is just bring the torque wrench over, get it close to tight, and then get the jack underneath of it, let it down a little bit so that the wheel touches, this tire touches the ground, just to give it enough resistance to torque it at 125. Here's what it looks like. Now, we see that the wheel is sticking out of the fender well. Oh, that looks good. Very happy with it. Very nice. That'll play. One last thing. I ordered some headlights. Ordered some taillights for this truck here. Gonna be smoked out. So I'll show you what that looks like after we get those in. It's supposed to be in next week, or this week. So we're gonna replace these taillights, but you can see the difference here. The original. Where'd the tire go? Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Quite the difference, eh? So we have that after, this before. Before, after. Oh, that looks sweet. Thanks for watching. I'll show you the finished product after I get the other 3 done. All right, so I always like to check and verify what I think compared to what is right. The torque is not 125, it's 140. So I pulled that wheel back off, retorqued the wheel spacer to 140, and will torque the lug nuts at 140 as well. Fun fact. Make sure you have the jack stand properly set on the axle. It slid a little bit, and now I can't get this back on. So we're gonna go over here, get the jack, raise it up a little bit, which is fine. And then I was gonna have to do it anyway. Start on the other one, but just make sure when you put those jack stands in there that you watch for the brake lines, okay? Do not set the axle down on the jack stand if the brake line is in the way. All right, let's do it again. All right, I got the backside rear done. Working on the front. Here's what it looks like from the rear. Not too shabby. Take it. When you get up to the front, it's going to be a little dirtier. Get these to torque. Pro tip with a rubber handle on your whatever you're using. Slide it in between the lugs. Be careful not to scar the threads. So you can apply pressure. Sometimes you got to stabilize it with your foot like here, like so. It's dirty. It's dirty, rotten, it's filthy, stinky leg cramp. Okay, gonna have to stand up for this. Okay, just apply pressure right here. Torque. Don't bounce too much. Oh, the leg cramps. There we go. Oh, cramps. Okay. Just do that and move on to the next. Yeah, it's fun. All right, driver's side done. I like it. Looks great. Alright, so here's the finished product. I got all four 3-inch wheel spacers on with the 17-inch wheels off the other truck. They're 18s, I keep trying to call them 17s. My apologies. 18s. The cardboard's gonna blow away. But I like it a lot. Very nice. Finished project one last time.